Hello everyone. Today's topic is basically about horror films. Yeah, right now I can hear a lot of you complaining that modern horror films these days are not that great. And yeah, I see why. But what I'm doing is I'm going to do my top 10 favorite horror films of the last 14 years. And, well, basically the 21st century this way. And a lot of people are saying these days horror films are terrible, they're going to shit, and on some level I agree. They are becoming terrible. They are being repeated cliches. They are not scary, they're not really well done. And on some level I do agree. There is some horror films these days that are not that great. But I found a good majority of films from 2000 to this year, or from that range, from 2000 to 2014. There are basically some good horror films. A lot of people saying, no, the horror films these years from the last decade are terrible. I know they are. But before we go into all this, little history. From the 1920s and 30s, we got the classics like Dracula and Frankenstein and Werewolf and The Mummy, and then we go into all the way into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where we got our Hellraiser, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers. And I would definitely say of all those decades, like from like the 1910s, 20s, 80s, and 90s. The best of the decades of those were definitely in the 60s and 70s. And to be fair, those horror movies are long and gone. We will probably never get those really greatly intelligent horror films ever again. We will not get another Silence of the Lambs. We won't get another Suspiria. We won't get another Alien or The Exorcist or even Psycho. And these films, they're not some great horror films. They're just generally great films in general. They bring up so many good questions and such good queries inside of them, and they spark interest and conversations. And I know a lot of you, like I said before in this video, films these days within the last decade have not been that great. But ever since Blair Witch Project, which is probably one of the most talked about, one of the most controversial films from the 1990s. Yeah, I know a lot of people right now, even up to this day, are very, very split on it. Some people say it's a shaky cam vomiting mess, to a unique and well done mystery type of fun footage horror film. No matter what, the film really brought up a big point controversy and landed to Denmark within this decade. And without that, we wouldn't have gotten some films I'm not going to bring up. But this video is not my top 10 yet. That is for tomorrow and the next day. Tomorrow, which is on Halloween, I will do 10 through 6. And then on Saturday, the day after Halloween, I will do 5 through 1. And in this video right now, I'm going to list off the movies that just missed it. So if you see a movie you wanted to see but you didn't see, or the other way around, I apologize. This is just my personal list. But before we go into the honorable mentions, which will be for the list, just to make you all mad, I'm going to have a good cup of tea. Oh shit, that's hot. Now, here is the honorable mentions. First one, Zombieland. Yeah, I'm sorry, this one, I was promising this, of all the honorable mentions, this is the number one. The honorable mentions that probably got the closest into my top 10, so this could be somewhat of a saying of a number 11, but it's like the highest rating I have to say for my honorable mentions. And the first one I'm going to say is Zombieland. It's very, very smart for what it is. I really love the cast in it. It had great humor. And above all things, it had just a great cast, and above all things, it's extremely quotable and one hell of a special little cameo within the film. And I'm sorry for saying one already, but I'm going to say this, is that there is no rules allowed. So basically, anything counts, from found footage to animated, to comedy, to slapstick, to even sci-fi or even fantasy type of horror films. They all count. There's no boundaries for this list. Like I said before, there was Zombieland, that's one. The other honorable mention is going to be The Exorcism of Emily Rose. This is a bit of a courtroom drama that I found incredibly fascinating. Supposedly on a true story, but I don't believe it. Whatever, but I thought the direction that took in was much more unique, and I haven't seen a horror film like that before. And I really bought into the story. I believe the characters, and I thought it was surprisingly well written and well performed, especially Jennifer Carpenter, who went through a lot of physical pain to really bring out that performance, and that's an extremely great performance in my opinion. It's a very, very good one. Coralline. Yeah, this one also didn't make on my list, but I thought Coralline was a pretty good one. Pretty good child type of horror film that is pretty good for, even though it's not like child-friendly horror, it's like, it doesn't hold back, but I really do like the progressional type of way it showed itself, and I liked the animation, the characters were fun, it really did have a sick-to-you feeling about it, and in the end, it brought on this really type of, it wasn't overly whimsical, but it was this bittersweet feeling that had left with me, and I really, really enjoyed it for what Coraline truly was. Scream 4. Yeah, a lot of people would be like, what? You really like Scream 4? Yeah, and you know what? I'm prone to admit that I own a DVD. Then again, I own all the DVDs to all the horror films, to all the Scream films, but that's besides the point. I thought Scream 4, in my opinion, was probably my favorite of the whole Scream franchise. I liked the self-awareness it had to itself. I liked the cast. I liked seeing all the original cast, like Neve Campbell, David Archuleta, and Courtney Cox coming back in. I really, really enjoyed that. I loved them. I loved seeing all of them back together, and I really enjoyed seeing the film. It has some good moments with itself. Hatchet, which is a bit of an underrated horror film in my opinion. Like, it's directed by Adam Green, and I believe that's it. But it's like this really hilariously over the top, extremely grotesque, extremely gory, balls out fun horror film. It's like so ridiculously over the top. It's basically like Friday the 13th meets Army of Darkness, to put it safely. It's really, it's like intentionally bad at times. And I personally say I enjoyed it for what kind of film that was. And I thought it was great for what it was. I thought it was greatly over the top for what it is. And I highly, personally, really enjoyed that. Of all the honorable mentions, this is probably the most controversial one. Prometheus. Yeah, I do really like Prometheus. Yes, it's not as good as the first two Alien films, but I like how it had its own self-containedness, and I do appreciate for the film answering a few questions that a lot of people have been wondering, like where was the origin of these species, how did they come to be, what made them what they were, and they were really interesting. But aside from that, I like the cast for what it was. Yes, it wasn't as memorable as the other ones. I'm sorry if I'm comparing, but that's inevitable at this point. I really like the sci-fi feel to it. It had a very much stick-with-you feeling to it. Whereas, like, when you look back at the film, you remember a lot of the visuals, and I think that really speaks to a film for something like that, where it heavily does rely on visuals, and yet it doesn't overly glamorize the film. Like, no matter what anyone says about Prometheus, it did two things well. Number one, the effects are fantastic, and the other thing is that it got rid of those shitty Alien vs. Predator films because it ruined it deliberately did ruin the mix-up whole type of feeling for the world of Alien vs. Predator films. Like Alien vs. Predator and Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which I both suck. I hate those films. not the worst films I've seen, but I hate those films. But at least it ruined what those two films were doing for the franchise, and I give the film a lot of credibility for that. I apologize if I stumbled over my words about that. And the next honorable mentions is a film not many people have heard about, but I'm going to say this is Tucker and Dale versus the Evil. This is a really, really funny horror film that I personally really, really enjoyed. And I love the slapstick in it. Both Tucker and Dale are absolutely hysterical. I love these two actors just go bouncing off each other and all these preteens they come across and all these gruesome kills and all the things that happens in between is really fun and really, really over the top. I really, really enjoyed it for what it was. I saw it with my uncle and we both laughed our arse off about it. And I really, really enjoyed Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. And my last honorable mention of my list here is going to be Wreck, or Record, this way. What I really do appreciate and respect about Wreck is that it's a friend, I forgot, it's either French or Spanish. Please comment down below if I got that wrong, okay? I sincerely do apologize. But what I really, really love and respect about Wreck or Record is that it really did come forward with this bit of a not so North American type of feel for itself, and then it did something so fluent in this such a unique, clever way. With this basically like the breakout of the disease within a building, and I truly appreciate for that. Great acting, a great deal of suspense and terror and horror. And above all things, I personally felt like it really, really did bring a really great sense of environment to it, and really made it feel claustrophobic. And it really, really, above all things, just did a great, great deal, in my opinion, about what it brought to the table for the horror genre, which a year later of Wreck, there came Quarantine, and guaranteed that wasn't that great, but it has some decent things in it, but doesn't matter. Wreck is much better than Quarantine, in my opinion, which is weird because I own both of those DVDs of those two films, but that's besides the point. But those, everyone, were all my honorable mentions before my top 10 favorite horror films of the 21st century, which will be, and basically, thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Tell me down below tell me down below what is some of your favorite films of the last 10, 14 years. And I just want to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you within the 2 next videos, which will be out tomorrow on my 10 through 6, and then on Saturday with my 5 through 1. Thank you for watching, everyone, and remember, stay strong. See ya.